Bat family. Welcome to Holy BatCast, brought to you, as always, by real fans for real movies. You can find us all over social media on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. You'll find us. And if you're a big fan of the show and you want to support us, you can do that on Patreon. You go to patreon.com/HolyBatCast. You don't have to do it, no pressure, but if you'd like to, that would be really awesome and it would really help us out. And as always, I got to give a big thank you to those of you who have done it, who've contributed to the show, and just make it that much easier for us to keep the show going. So thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. We're a part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check out those shows at rf4rm.com. And as always, I am your host, Andy DiGenova. You can find me on Instagram, on Letterboxd, on Threads, and I just started a Blue Sky. No matter where it is, it's always just my name, Andy DiGenova. This episode is going to be more of like a old school catching up news episode, just trying to mix it up. And, you know, it's been a while since we've done one like this. And guess what? We're going to do an episode of the Batman. You thought we forgot about that? Nope, we're doing it. We're going to do like one every 6 months. And at that rate, we'll finish the series right around the time I'm on my deathbed. It'll be great. Joining me for all that fun, my Bat brother out there, freezing his took us off in Indiana. It's Jamie. Hi, Jamie Drewley.
Yes, freezing is appropriate. And if I may just throw in my 2 cents on this thing for the Batman, can we go ahead and just skip to season 5? Because I was scanning forward this morning, just trying to see how many episodes we had left. And there are some very interesting looking episodes of that last season.
Yeah, there are, but you gotta earn it. You can't just jump to the end.
Patience is not one of my strong points.
Yeah, season 5 gets crazy. But we, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound, we got to do the whole thing.
I suppose.
Well, thanks for coming back.
And, good to be here.
Yeah, and like I said, like I can't remember the last time we were just kind of caught up on the news and what's happening in the DC world. And so, yeah, I feel like you got to do one of these every once in a while just to stay up to date. And it's not just for our listeners to stay up to date. It's also for you, Jamie, to stay up to date.
Yeah, because I'm not paying attention to hardly anything.
Well, that's kind of nice.
Which makes for nice surprises, I must say.
Right? So it'll be interesting.
In the internet day and age, being overinformed is a very common thing. And I find ignorance to be pretty blissful in my old age. So.
You know, right now, that is a very good strategy. There's like memes going around about like, you know, the constant struggle of trying to stay informed and also trying to protect my mental health.
Yeah.
And that is very accurate. But speaking of mental health, I've got to, give a shout out to our pals over at Magic Mind. I told you about Magic Mind and their the work that they've been doing to raise awareness for mental wealth all through January. We are now into February, but it's never too late to start thinking about your own mental health and your own mental wealth and building yourself a library of tools, of things that can help you in your day-to-day, and Magic Mind is one of those things that can help you out. I've been using it daily as I go to work. I grab one on my way out the door with Harley and with my stuff, and after I drop Harley off at daycare, I get my coffee and I have my Magic Mind right there, hand in hand with my coffee. And by the time I get to work, I'm ready to go. And that's good because right now we are in crunch time on the project. And so there's not, it's nice when you get like a good hour to ease into your day at work, at least for me, being not a morning person. That's what I like. But right now I don't get that luxury. So the Magic Mind really does just help me focus, help me wake up a little better on my drive to work. And so by the time I get there, I'm good to go. And it really does help. So I love just adding that extra little thing into my morning. And so for those of you who tried it, I hope you've been happy with your Magic Mind. And if you haven't tried it yet, there's no time like the present. They do have the mental focus shot, which is their main thing, their bread and butter, but now they also have one that helps you with sleep. And it's not going to solve all your problems, but it's just another thing that hopefully will help you, get through your day, make it that much more productive. So I do recommend it. I've been very happy with it. And then they have been very nice to support us. And they gave us, as always, a promo code for anyone out there listening who would like to try Magic Mind. So you can get up to 48% on a subscription if that's something, if you want it to just keep coming. If you're just going to do a one-time purchase, that's cool too. You get 20% off. But when you do that, just go to magicmind.com/holy20. So Holy BatCast and 20 for the 20%. Again, the more you order, the bigger they'll give you the discount, but it's at least 20% off. And the nice thing, as I've told you in the past few episodes, is money back guarantee. No stress. If you don't like it, if it doesn't work for you the way you want it to, you just send it back, you get your refund, it's all good. But they're that confident in what they do. And again, it's something that I've integrated into my daily routine, and I've been very happy with it. So again, if you want to give Magic Mind a shot, go to magicmind.com/holy20. And we would appreciate anybody who did that, because you're helping yourself out. You're doing something nice for yourself. And right now, that's a good thing. Be kind to yourself. Do a little something nice for yourself. And you're also supporting Holy BatCast in the process. So big thank you to anybody who's already done that. And if you're still thinking about it, go check it out at magicmind.com/holy20. Now, let's talk about some news, Jamie. See what's happening out there in the DC world. And I'm going to start with the disclaimer, because this is the saddest thing about catching up on DC news right now. Really not much to do with Batman. It's very quiet on the Batman front right now.
Well, shoot.
So that, all I've got is one rumor that, let me tell you, I think odds of that rumor being true are probably about 15%, but we're going to talk about it because it's Batman anyway. Everything else.
In relation to that, I think you should know that I read the other day that 67.8% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
That is absolutely true. I just did that. But that was more of an educated guess. I wasn't pretending that was real. But yes, that's absolutely true. So we're going to get to that at the end. But yeah, as I'm pulling all the news, I'm like, oh, it's just so quiet. So quiet for Batman right now, which is odd and a little sad, but it's okay. I guess absence makes the heart grow fonder. But we even talked about that, I think, on the year-end wrap-up of like, yeah, not a lot of new Batman content in 2024 and not much coming in 2025.
He's lurking in the shadows, just biding his time.
Yeah. So the first thing is a pretty quick and easy one, and that is Sandman at Netflix. Did you watch Sandman on Netflix?
I did not.
Well, first of all, it was terrific. Absolutely. And season 2 is coming soon, but they just announced that season 2 will be the final season. And this was from Variety. They said, this is the showrunner, said, the Sandman series has always been focused exclusively on Dream's story. And back in 2022, when we looked at the remaining Dream material from the comics, we knew we only had enough story for one more season. We're extremely grateful to Netflix for bringing the team back together and giving us the time and resources to make a faithful adaptation in a way that we hope will surprise and delight the comics' loyal readers as well as fans of our show. So, I'm glad we're getting a second season and they are, making it a true wrap-up ending. Season 1 truly was terrific. I can't recommend it highly enough, but the timing is a little interesting because Neil Gaiman currently has some allegations against him. And so a lot of his projects are getting shelved or canceled until all of this shakes out. They are just allegations. Nothing has been proven yet. But yeah, there's been a lot of news just kind of around of like a lot of things that he had in the pipeline all getting put on hold until they figure out what's going on. But it's one of those like, do you believe it was always going to be 2 seasons? Or did that force their hand and go, well, you know what? We've already shot season 2, so we're going to make that it, but that'll be it.
I don't know anything about this, so I'm not even sure I should ask what the allegations are. I can probably guess, but it's a strange time involved in that sort of thing.
For sure.
I'm still sad in the back of my head about the Jonathan Major stuff.
Yeah.
Not to say it's not warranted, but man, that guy was so talented. He is talented. I shouldn't say was. He's not retarded or anything, but
he is talented. But I will say, at least with Jonathan Majors, they basically waited till he was convicted before he lost his job. That we haven't gotten that far with Gaiman yet. We don't know. Again, they're just allegations and nothing has been proven yet. So, it is always one of those things where it's like, of course people should be held accountable, but also it's like, maybe wait to see, wait to see if it's true before, you start taking away someone's livelihood.
Yeah, yeah.
But regardless, like the Sandman, at least we're getting season 2 coming this year. I don't even know if there's a date yet. No, there's no date yet, but it just says final season 2025. So anyway, for anybody out there who's a fan of the show, FYI, season 2 is going to be it. So enjoy that when it does come out. And Jamie, if you find yourself with a little gap of being like, I don't know what show I should watch, I do recommend season 1 a lot. It's really good.
I'm currently in the middle of the year of Superman, so I finished Superman and Lois, and now I'm going back and rewatching Lois and Clark, and I'm figuring out I have not seen all the episodes of this show. In fact, not last night, but the night before was the episode with H.G. Wells and Tempest.
Mm-hmm.
You familiar with that one?
No.
Like the guy from the H.G. Wells comes back with the guy from the future, and they're talking about Superman and Lois as kids established this utopia in the future, and Tempest, who's the guy from the future, is like bored out of his skull. He said the future's so boring because nothing ever happens. So like he's like figuring out how to mug people and shoot guns. And so like I guess the infamous moment from the episode is where Tempest tells her that in the future he's talking to Lois and he's like, you're viewed as the most galactically dumb person that's ever lived. And she's like, what? And he's like, he grabs the glasses off of H.G. Wells and puts them on. He's like, I'm Clark Kent, mild mannered reporter. And then he takes them off and sticks out his chest. He's like, I'm Superman. And he puts the glasses back on and says, I'm just like a normal guy. And he takes them off again. It's like, I'm a superhero. It's like, duh, how did you not see this coming? So
Nice.
Anyway, I'm watching pretty much all Superman content between now and July. So
that's right. You did say that. I remember. Well, cool. Anyway, moving forward, this is an interesting one just because it's something we keep forgetting about, and that is James Mangold doing Swamp Thing. Remember they announced that way back with the slate, and then you just kind of haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
He's out there doing the interview circuit because of the Bob Dylan movie with Timothée Chalamet. And someone asked him over at MovieWeb about Swamp Thing. And so here's what he said. He said, Swamp Thing at DC, it's just a matter of, do we find a way on the page to say something original? He also said, well, I'm sure DC views Swamp Thing as a franchise. I'd be viewing it as a very simple, clean, gothic horror movie about this man monster. Just doing my own thing with this, just a standalone. So, not a ton of insight, but interesting just because, again, it's a project that we've heard nothing about really since the initial announcement. And so nice to hear that at least it is still somewhere in his pipeline. It's just unclear as to when. As for standalone versus franchise, it's very easy to go from one to the other, but I don't think there's any problem with the first film just doing it standalone. And then, if it's successful, there are always ways to extend it later.
So I have a very weird relationship with James Mangold in that the movies he makes that I like, I really, really, really like. And the ones he makes that I don't, I wish I had never watched. So,
you and I share that. It's so interesting because I think he is a talented filmmaker, but for me, I also think he has like a 50% success rate because I only like maybe half of his movies.
I'm not even sure I'm at 50%, but I mean, he always gets, great talent to work with him. So clearly people like working with him and that's good. But it's not encouraging me to hear that he just kind of wants to do. I know we have, Elseworld stuff that's floating around and everything, but I don't feel encouraged by the idea that Swamp Thing would be a one and done. I like the idea that it's like a horror element,
Mm-hmm.
that would be an interesting take that I don't feel like we see a lot of in motion media with Swamp Thing. So I don't know. I definitely don't want Swamp Thing off the table where we can't do, shared universe stuff or Justice League Dark or things like that. So if him doing this means we can't do that, then find him something else to do. But as you say, if it can branch into something else, or if we can, for whatever reason, have two versions of Swamp Thing, fine. But I don't know, that those words don't encourage me a lot, I guess is the best I can leave it at.
Well, but again, like for a solo movie, I'm okay with it truly being a solo movie. And with the character of Swamp Thing, it's really hard to kill him. So even if they did, quote unquote, kill him, Swamp Thing can always return. So again, it's not like it would be really hard to close off all potential for Swamp Thing to then show up elsewhere. So that's why I'm like, okay. Like it's not a huge red flag or anything, but it's an interesting perspective. But I do like what he says about it being a clean, simple gothic horror movie about Swamp Thing. I think that could be really cool if and when this happens. But yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so interesting. We will, because I feel like he has quite a queue lined up, and I just don't know where Swamp Thing falls in there.
Well, I mean, it's probably going to be released right about the same time as Steven Spielberg's Black Hawks movie.
Oh, well, how dare you? But like, isn't Mangold also supposed to be working on a Star Wars movie?
Oh, God, I hope not.
He's supposed to be. They announced it, but it's also one of those things where, like, after Dial of Destiny, it kind of went quiet. So it's like, who knows?
I feel like Star Wars has become the new DC. It's like they keep announcing all these things and then you never hear anything more about it.
Yep.
Which breaks my heart because I really want the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie, and apparently that's never going to happen now.
I am sure there's someone out there who actually has the list of all the Star Wars movies that were announced and never saw the light of day, and that's just in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving forward, something that we know is happening because guess what? They're starting production. They started last week. That is Lanterns. So the more boring news, and not boring, it's cool because they're actually starting production, but they're starting production with camera tests. That's what's boring. It's like, okay, I'm glad you're doing camera tests, but it's hard to get too excited about that. We're not going to get any good, good scoops from your camera tests. But what's exciting about it is that they're actually starting the process. This was posted by Garrett Delahunt, who is one of those great actors that I feel like everybody has seen, but they might not know his name, but he's in the show. And he posted that, yeah, they're starting all these tests, which is great because it means Lanterns is moving forward. But hand in hand with that is we got casting for Sinestro. Did you see this?
No.
Well, surprise. So, actor Ulrich Thompson has been cast as Sinestro in Lanterns. And this was a scoop from Deadline.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know him by name. He was in Banshee. He's on the Blacklist. And apparently he was in something James Bond.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't know his name either. But he is playing Sinestro. And I see here that Lanterns, they're starting pre-production camera tests, but they're supposed to start real production February 10th. So in just about a week. And
now,
production
is that slated to be released this year, like late this year, or
nope, next year?
Okay.
But they're going to be doing production from February to July, and it seems like Sinestro is part of the party. How do you feel about that?
Well, that does encourage me in that now I'm less concerned about this being stuck in farmland Midwest, running around in trench coats, not doing anything very Green Lantern-y, because why would you have Sinestro in a story that's doing that?
Yeah.
So I feel like that alleviates some of my concern with what's been said thus far about the show.
I feel exactly the same. I don't know this actor either. Based on the photos, he certainly looks kind of scary and villainous. So I could see him. He looks a little old. He looks like he's maybe in his 60s, but if Hal is older, then Sinestro could be older too. And so as far as the casting itself, I'm like, sure, why not? I don't have strong feelings on the actor, but I'm very happy and excited that Sinestro is part of the show. Because like you said, it really helps go, okay, they are incorporating the larger Green Lantern universe. That includes an alien like Sinestro. So it ain't going to be too grounded. So great. Can't wait.
Unless Sinestro is also wearing a trench coat and a fedora hat, and they're just doing like spy versus spy stuff.
And he's not an alien. He's just, he comes from a part of the world with no sunscreen. So his whole face is baked red.
Yeah. Perfect. We got
it. So anyway, when they announced this, I was like, you know what? Sinestro's in it. That's really awesome. Can't wait for more. And as they start production in another week or two, hopefully we'll start getting some looks at things, and that will be exciting too.
Just show me the bloody costumes.
Yeah,
I
I
need to see
know.
the costumes.
It's like if they just show us like really awesome Green Lantern costumes, I think that will do so much to quiet the concerns that a lot of us have about it being a little too real world, not superhero-y enough.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah. Well, we shall see, and they'll start soon. And something that has started production is Supergirl. Supergirl One of Tomorrow has started production. The first thing is that they cast Kara's parents. And this was, it was announced on The Hollywood Reporter. James Gunn did confirm it. David Krumholtz is Kara's dad, and Emily Beecham is Kara's mom. I'm not familiar with Emily Beecham, but David Krumholtz, everybody knows Bernard from the Santa Claus. Or I also like to think of him as the kid from Addams Family Values. So they got more casting, and this is what's happening as they go into production. So we now have parents, and then they started production a little over a week ago, and it was commemorated by James Gunn sharing a photo of Millie Alcock on set. And it is not a revealing photo, it's worth noting. It is the back of her in a jacket / hoodie on a chair with the Supergirl logo. So we don't get to see much, but it's always nice to go, okay, we're off to the races, and Supergirl is starting. And this was the caption that Gunn put on the post. He said, "Thrilled to see cameras roll at Warner Brothers Studios Leavesden on Supergirl, with Craig Gillespie at the helm and the phenomenal Millie Alcock as our Kara Zor-El. Craig brings an incredible sensibility to the story, and Millie is every inch the unique Supergirl envisioned by Tom King, Bilquis Evely, and Anna Noguera." So Supergirl is underway, and she has parents.
All right, then. Speaking of not encouraging things I'm hearing this morning, every bit the character of Tom King wrote.
This is going to be so interesting. This is one like, okay, they're in production now. Now I'm ready for some reveals. But then again, remember when they started production of Superman, we just got the logo in the snow, and it took a while for us to see something real. So it's probably going to be a minute before we get our first glimpse of Supergirl proper in the suit and everything. But, it is nice just to get the tease. It's nice to see that they're in production. And, I also don't have strong feelings on the casting of the parents other than, it's always nice to see David Krumholtz.
All I'm sitting here thinking about now is Tom King. It dawns on me as we're talking about this is basically what would Grant Morrison be like without the drugs?
Yeah, fair.
Because they both write these weird, bizarre stories that, sometimes they're good and sometimes they're just weird for the sake of being weird.
Mm. I still need to read it. I need to make up my own mind because I've heard people say it's like the best Supergirl story ever written. And then I've heard people who are like, "Oh, I hated it." So
I've never finished it. I don't know how far. It's 4 books. I think maybe I got through the first book and started the second, and I fell off, and that's been well over. I mean, when did they first announce that this was the basis for the Supergirl movie? Because that's when I downloaded it and started reading it.
When they announced the slate,
which has been over a year ago at this point.
Oh, right? yeah, well over a year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of shows what I thought of it.
I think it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, because I feel like they said, didn't he say you'll have the slate before the end of January? And then it was like January 31st. He shared it or something like that.
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, something like that. Anyway, but yes, a couple years ago.
So I guess I should get back. I'll probably try and get back around to finish reading it before, the movie as we're leading up to it. But I'm not in a hurry to do it right now because I just was not blown away by it.
Okay, that's fair. And we all know that Tom King he doesn't work for everybody, but for the people who love him, they love him. So, Yeah, I will read this because I'm curious, and it'll be interesting to see how faithful it truly is versus how much it's inspired by.
His Mr. Miracle book was phenomenal. I'll certainly tip my hat to him for that because I thought that was great.
I still have it sitting on my nightstand thanks to Hunter Fagan. I just haven't read it yet.
Okay. Well, it's really good for whatever it's worth. And
Coming from you, that says a lot.
yeah, I mean, and I read like I forget what it was. Was it Vision and Scarlet Witch that he wrote or something like that? I can't remember. It was some Vision story because everybody said, "Oh, it's even better than Mr. Miracle." So I'm like, "All right," and I read that and I was like, "Nope, that's Tom King." And the one where he had like the superhero uh, uh, like mental health place, like they would go there after they killed somebody or something.
Oh, okay.
And there wound up being like a murder that happened in there. That was just weird. It was just super weird. And then, of course, they had the Batman and Catwoman book, and I thought I'm not going to read this. And then they were like, Phantasm was going to be part of this. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to read it because I love Phantasm. And that was like 12 issues that took like 7 years to complete. And I think I quit reading it at like 7 because I was like, no, this isn't going anywhere I want to go. So I just, it's not for me. I understand the guy's talented. I understand he's much loved by a lot of people out there, but he is just not for me.
And that's all right. Not everyone's for everyone. In fact, there's no one who's for everyone.
That's true.
All right. Well, I mean, personally, having no dog in the fight as far as the story goes, I'm just excited about the Supergirl movie. I'm excited they're in production. I'm excited for us to start getting reveals. I feel like we're going to get the reveal, obviously, of Supergirl herself. We're going to get a reveal of Lobo, and then whoever else or whatever else. I don't know enough. But it's nice to know that out there in the UK, Supergirl is rolling cameras. And it is nice that, like, we've got this new DCU. We haven't seen the true kickoff yet with Superman. Obviously, we've had Creature Commandos, but that's still kind of a gray area in my opinion. But I'm glad that they're not just sitting on their hands waiting for Superman. The fact that Supergirl's in production, Lanterns is about to go into production, that, like, for now, they're sticking to the plan, so we at least know we're going to get these projects. And then I think we mentioned it a little bit, but James Gunn did say kind of the order of projects. He did say Superman, Peacemaker, Lanterns, Supergirl. And then he said a couple things people don't know yet, whatever that means. So that's why I said Lanterns will be next year, because it seems like it'll come out just before Supergirl.
I just don't want to get back to that point where we're getting announcements for shit that's never going to see the light of day. So as long as we're
I feel you. I
feel the guns, that's fine.
That's kind of my point, is like, hey, you know what? They're moving forward on the things that are ready to move forward, and that's still exciting. So
it's so bizarre to me that the Brave and the Bold is still that quiet, though.
I know. Yeah, I agree.
I every day it's like I look at my phone and I'm waiting to see a message from you and Brendan that tells me, "Oh my God, I can't believe who they cast for it." And I'm like, "Yeah," but no, the message has not come, and it's weird.
I know. And the problem is there are people out there who keep lying, and then there are gullible people like my sister, who I love dearly. She sent me a post that said, "Confirm Jensen Ackles is the new Batman," and I was like, "Oh," because she loves Jensen Ackles. I'm like, "No, that's not real. I'm sorry." But these people, yeah, they like just post it, and enough people fall for it, and makes me sad.
Yeah, I have a guy that I work with that he's in no way disrespectful. He's just more of a casual fan. He likes the movies. He's not into most. He likes games too. So like he always talks about this Superman game he played when he was a kid. But he's always like showing me stuff, and it's like, "Oh, check this out." I'm like, "No, that can't be real." So,
right.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
But anyway, at least we've got a lot of things in the pipeline for the next year and a half, because Supergirl does come on June 26th of next year. So it almost, I'm obviously making this up, but I feel like obviously Superman is July. Peacemaker will probably get in the fall. And then next year, sometime in the first half of the year, we'll get Lanterns. And then in June, we get Supergirl. So that's stuff to look forward to, at least for the next year and a half. especially after the quiet 2024.
Yeah.
All right, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. More as it develops. But we know that Superman is coming, but someone's trying to stop it from coming. I don't know if you heard about this. The Joe Shuster estate has filed a lawsuit against Warner Brothers and DC over the international copyrights of Superman.
Like in general or just this movie?
In general.
Okay.
So, but mostly directed towards the movie. So this is a report from the Wall Street Journal. It said that they filed a suit that DC Comics' international rights to Superman expired in countries like Australia, Canada, and the UK in 2017 and 2021. And so the suit claims that DC's been operating without proper license to Superman in the UK since 2017. And then in Canada, it says since 2021, which is so interesting.
How does nobody catch this?
Right? That's my thought. So the executor of the Schuster estate says that these foreign copyright laws were specifically designed to protect creators like my Uncle Joe, and that's what we're fighting for. And so the lawyer for the Schuster estate says it's not their desire to keep Superman from fans, but they seek just compensation for Joe Shuster's fundamental contributions as the co-creator of the character. So
we want money for shit that we had nothing to do with. Is that what I'm hearing?
Pretty much. But like, I don't know if you've noticed, but over the past, I'd say 10 years, anything with Superman, there has always been a credit that it's something like, with gracious cooperation from the Siegel and Schuster estates or something like that. So it's interesting that if they think that DC and WB haven't had rights to Superman since 2017, it's weird that they wouldn't know that and wouldn't do anything about it until 2025.
Yeah.
It's, weird they'd pick the year when a new movie was coming out when WBDC is like, well, we can't let anything stand away in this movie. So I don't know enough about the details of this, but it's really weird timing. I can't imagine a world where they don't come to an agreement and then somehow Superman isn't released in the UK or Canada or Australia. Although it would be hilarious if it was released everywhere except Australia.
I think Brendan would agree.
Could you imagine? So yes, I mean, I'm sure they'll come to terms, but it's just weird to me that if they're saying that these certain territories haven't had the rights for, up to 7 years, it's like, well, then what have you been doing? And it sounds like, to me, that's like, it sounds like it's sort of a he said, she said situation, because it can't be that clear if they've been, releasing Superman content since 2017.
Well, the cynical side of me is saying, I forget what year it was on the horizon, 27 or whatever it is, where the characters become public domain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe this feels like the last grasp at getting paid before they can't ever get paid again for it.
Yeah, maybe. Right? Like, it could be. It's just, I mean, like, they've been releasing Superman and Lois in Australia. We know that for a fact. And if this suit is to be believed, they were doing that illegally? I don't know. Just the whole thing feels weird, but hey, let the lawyers work it out. The good news is that it doesn't affect the United States, so we'll get to see the movie.
Assuming we're not traveling abroad when it's released or something.
Well, that's fair too. And also, again, I don't see a world where they don't make some sort of agreement. Like, WB is not going to let them be blocked from releasing their big new Superman movie in those territories. Those are pretty big territories.
No. I mean, we already know they'll write off $200 million movies and trash them, never to be seen by public eyes.
Oh my God.
That's this year's tax write-off.
I'm not even amused by that.
Nor should you be. That's terrible. I shouldn't even joke about it.
Anyway, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Again, my hunch is they will resolve it quickly out of court and it won't really affect us. But what a weird little wrinkle that now they have to deal with.
I wish I had the problems of privilege where I could ride on somebody's coattails from shit they did 80 years ago.
Right? Right? What the hell were my grandparents doing? Slackers? Come on. Anyway, Superman is coming. It's coming in July. And what's cool about that is promotion has truly begun. I got my first 2 Superman t-shirts of the new logo.
Really?
I got them from the DC shop, so I got them direct. One of them is just the logo on the blue shirt, super classic, but I was like, you got to. And then they did one where it's the logo, but in like silver and light blue, kind of like Superman the movie. You've seen like versions of the logo from Superman the movie that are sort of the silver and blue. It's that, but it's the new logo, and I had to. It was too cool.
That sounds pretty neat.
So anyway, that was not the news, but I just thought I'd bring it up for anybody who cares. It was like, yeah, they got a lot of the new Superman stuff on the DC shop online, and I ordered a couple things. I know that like Joe did as well, and Eric, some of those guys. I also got the coolest baseball cap from the Flash that had the Bat logo and the Flash logo, the one that was sort of the combined logo. I got that from the DC shop for like $4.99. So big shout out to Joe. That was on clearance. I was like, hell yeah, I want that hat for $5. Anyway, promotion has begun. Merchandise is starting to show up. Superman is upon us. And we got our first TV spot for Superman. Now, most of this TV spot is stuff that's just from the trailer, but there were a couple new shots that are worth mentioning. So I did send this to you in advance. Did you watch it?
I actually watched it before that because that aired during a football game I was watching last
weekend.
Oh
my God. Look at you.
Yeah, I'm on top of things.
Actually watching something before I tell you about it. I'm so proud.
Yeah, I had to shush everybody in the house because they were talking when the commercials were. They know better than to talk to me when the game's on. So when the commercials come on, they start talking. And then I saw Superman and I was like, shh.
Well, the only one who can get you to watch things better than me is the NFL.
Yeah, that's true.
So it is a new Superman TV spot. It's called Icon for whatever reason. It's on YouTube. It's everywhere out there. I love that we're already getting TV spots in January when it doesn't come out to July. Again, that's exciting as far as promotion goes. But again, the majority of it is just is stuff that you've already seen in the trailer. But there were 2 notable new shots. One of them I actually brought up on this show because I said when I went to go see... I think when I saw Sonic the Hedgehog 3, they showed the trailer. But when they showed the trailer, it wasn't the shot of Lex with the gun. It was the shot of Lex in sunglasses in the snow.
Like deboarding the plane with I guess we're calling him Ultraman behind him?
Yeah. So that was in the full trailer in the theater, but not online, which I thought was super interesting because I had watched the trailer a lot. And so when that happened, I went, wait a minute, wow, I've not seen that shot before. And it is in the TV spot. So I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. I didn't make it up. I didn't have a stroke. It's real. And now it's in the TV spot. So frankly, I think he looks cool as hell. And I don't know if he's after the Fortress of Solitude or what, but he's going to the Arctic, just like classic Lex in the 70s.
Yeah. And, putting 2 and 2 together, we can probably assume that they're there to start some shit, and this is how Superman gets bloody, bruised, and beaten from the beginning of the trailer.
Yeah, very possible. So, I mean, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Lex. I mean, I love Nicholas Hoult anyway. I think he's terrific. He's had a hell of a good year in 2024. Hopefully that streak continues in 2025, but right now he's really given me the Lex I've been wanting to see, at least from what we are seeing.
Without a single word having been spoken out loud yet that I've heard.
Yeah. So that was cool. But then the one that's really made waves was the final shot because we had seen Superman flying from the back in the teaser for the trailer. But in this spot, we get a little bit more. We actually get to see him from the front and he does this cool little spin through. I don't know what you call it, like parts of the mountain in the Arctic where he kind of spins between two little pieces of rock jutting up, and it's like a very close up on his face as he's flying, and I think it looks cool as hell. I'll just put it out there. I think it looks cool as hell. I really dig it. But not everybody does. A lot of people really dig it like me. And then there are people who are like, that looks so stupid and that looks so goofy. And yeah, put me in the cool camp because I dig it.
Superman flying looks goofy? What?
They don't like
where am I at? Where am I at right now?
Listen, man. Remember when I said you can't please all the people all the time? It's madness because I was like, oh, awesome. That's fun. Like, you get to see him do a little spin. It was a very unique shot of Superman. We've certainly seen him fly before, but yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. And I didn't think more about it other than, oh, that was cool. And then I made the horrible mistake of looking at the comments.
No, never read the comments section, Andrew. No.
I couldn't help it, but it's so, in my opinion, it is so silly because I'm like, no, he looks cool. And someone commented on wherever James Gunn is on social media these days. I don't know if it was Threads. I don't know if it was Blue Sky. I don't, maybe he's back on X. I have no idea. But they basically said, oh, this is really cool. The face looks a little weird, but I know there's still time to correct the CG. And James Gunn says there's no CG on his face. And he's like, that's just David. But that's, when you've got like a lens that close to someone's face, like, yeah, it looks different. And he said the background plate of, and he called it wherever they actually went and shot it. I can't remember where, in Norway, I think. He's like, and there's no CG in the background either. So no. So I appreciate that he even responded of being like, nope, we put no CG on David's face. We put no CG in the background. That's just him. And again, yeah, it looks like him, but it's just funny that that's where we live as people have been like, oh, the CG on his face is pretty bad. And it's like, nope, there's not. So anyway, it's just interesting. I guess there are like memes making the round of like them making fun of his face in that shot. I haven't seen them, but Brendan mentioned it to me. I was like, but for me, I was like, oh man, like you just can't win. You can't win. Here's a cool shot of Superman flying, and there are people out there who want to like shit on it like for a week. It's crazy.
The internet. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of is after Shazam 2 came out, which, even I didn't love, but David Sandberg, who I do love, who I think is great, he said something to the effect of being like, you know what? I'm really looking forward to getting back to horror and getting out of this superhero bubble because the superhero landscape is rough. And I'm like, dude, preach. It's so true. Like you're out there just trying to make the best movie you can. And the fans are just, man, we can be brutal. So I totally felt him in that moment where he's like, I'm excited to go do something that's not superheroes because this is tough. And that's what I thought of with this. It's like, oh, here's a cool shot of Superman flying. Get him! Get the pitchforks!
I mean, I didn't have any strong thoughts either way about it. It's kind of, cool that it was something that we didn't see in the trailer, but I didn't think it looked bad. I didn't think it looked like something that was making me do backflips off the top of my couch or anything. But I mean, I don't understand why everything has to be the greatest thing ever or the worst thing ever. We had this discussion at work all the time.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Whether there's big social media campaigns at work and, people like leave Google reviews and every single damn review is a 1-star or a 5-star. Nobody leaves 3s or 4s. It's all 1s and 5s.
Yeah.
Because it's the greatest thing ever or the worst thing ever. And it's like, that's just the internet in general.
Yeah. Yeah. I've said that how many times over the years of like, yeah. And it is crazy because the reality is I think most things are pretty good. But I mean, I agree with you. Like I just was like, oh, that's a cool shot. That's great. And I didn't think more about it. I just was like, oh, that's cool. And then to see that it's become like this point of contention is so crazy.
It's a wonder I don't spend as much time on the internet anymore.
See, you're smarter. But I love that we're getting TV spots as early as now. And I did see something. I don't know how confirmed or official it was, but I saw that there will be no Superman at the Super Bowl, but there will be a sneak peek on the Puppy Bowl because of crypto.
Ah.
Which honestly, I think is kind of smart. It's like save the money for the Super Bowl spot, but still be part of the conversation.
There's a lot of major players that are not doing the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Like car companies and movie companies and all kinds of stuff. Because like you have to figure they're banking on Superman being WB's biggest movie this year. You have to believe that.
Right.
Why wouldn't they want that in front of however many hundreds of millions of people are going to watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'm not. It's a vacant championship here because I'm not watching the Chiefs and the Eagles.
All right.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's bizarre. I don't know if I don't know what the advertising cost, but I imagine it's outrageous. It's always been outrageous. Because what was it a couple of years ago? Like $5 million for 30 seconds?
Yeah, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
I mean, plus like I don't know how much it's like what I've seen. Again, like you, I've kind of got 1 foot in, 1 foot out of trying to keep keep informed. But I'm sure like Jurassic is going to be at the Super Bowl because that comes out a week before Superman, and we haven't seen anything but a couple photos. So that feels like
it's even coming out.
Well, everyone is. That's why they need to make a splash and go, hey, remember, we're coming out 4th of July weekend. So I feel like Jurassic will be there, and so will Fantastic Four, because that comes out, a week or two after Superman.
I also keep forgetting about that.
And I'll say what I said on some other episode. July is going to bankrupt me in babysitters between those 3 movies. But anyway, I hope that it's true that we'll get a little Superman something at the Puppy Bowl, because I'll take whatever new content I can. Remember with Batman v Superman, where they're like, we're not doing a Super Bowl spot, but what they did was they let Turkish Airlines run a BVS spot. So it was
yes.
So it was like WB was like, we're not paying for it, but if Turkish Airlines wants to, we'll let you. And so it was like the shot of like Ben Affleck on the plane as Bruce Wayne. It was like a cool way to like do a BVS Super Bowl spot without doing one, but this could be like that.
Okay.
So anyway, so Superman promotion is ramping up, and there will be more to talk about as we go, which is exciting. And then the Batman rumor that I wanted to chat about quickly. Again, it is just a rumor. I don't even know where it originated. So again, I think the odds of it being legit are very low, but hey, it's the only thing that even resembles Batman news this week. And I feel bad that in our Holy BatCast, there's not a lot of Batman to talk about. And I thought it would be fun to chat about it regardless. And the rumor is, have you seen any rumors?
I have not.
It came out yesterday or maybe Friday. The rumor is, I apologize for laughing, is that Kit Harington is in talks to play Hush in the Batman Part 2.
Okay.
And so before I say anything, what is your reaction to that?
Okay. I don't have strong feelings either way about it. Well, first things first, I should ask. I'm assuming, since you did not say that this has already been slapped down by James Gunn, he has said nothing about it?
Nothing that I have seen. But again, I could have missed it if he said something, but it could have come from some very random source that isn't even worth James Gunn's time. I don't know.
Because I feel like the outlandish ones, he's like in there within 10 minutes. Not true. I mean, I don't mind Kit Harington as an actor, but I find it. This is terrible. He's so small that I find it difficult to see him in any superhero-ish kind of role, unless he's going to be like the Atom or something. But I just, If he gets it, fine. If he doesn't, fine, I guess is where I'm at with it. I don't really care either way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, has he really done anything since Game of Thrones ended?
So that's literally what I was about to say. I liked him on Game of Thrones, right? Like, yeah, I liked him. I was never in love with him. I didn't think he was like the best thing ever, but I liked him on it. I forgot he was in Eternals. Completely forgot that.
Everybody forgot Eternals even existed.
Even Marvel forgot Eternals existed.
Mm-hmm.
That we don't talk about Eternals or Bruno. And so I was like, but when there's an actor like this who's like a kind of, what's the right word? I don't want to say kind of famous, but who is a good, solid, recognizable actor, even if he's not like an A-list superstar. When there's an actor like that, and I'm like, what's he been up to? The answer is usually he's on some streaming show that I've never heard of. And so I pulled up his IMDb, and yes, he was on some show called Industry last year for 5 episodes. I don't know what Industry is. I don't know what channel or streaming service it's on, but apparently that's what
heard of it. So.
Yeah, that's what he's been up to. So there you go. I was right. He was on some streaming show I've never heard of, which is usually the case. So yeah, he's been working. He's, it's not like he's retired or anything, but it's just kind of random. I guess my first reaction is like, I like Kit Harington. He seems like the right level of famous to be a villain in the Batman Part 2, right? Like, not too big, not too small, think about Paul Dano and Barry Keoghan, like kind of that level, right? Recognizable without being super expensive or anything. So, but that also makes me go, yeah, but that's why it's a very easy fan cast to try and turn into a rumor. Is it someone people know, but like not that big, right? The reason I think that this rumor is dubious at best is because last we heard, they haven't even turned in the script. And so if they haven't even turned in the script, why would they be casting?
That's a very valid point.
They're at least a year from production. Why would they be casting? So that's why I'm like, the timing doesn't make a lot of sense. It'd be different if it was some massive superstar who was like, we got to get on their schedule now, otherwise we're going to lose them. I think Kit Harington's got some flexibility. That's why I'm like, I don't know if I buy this. I think it's more just someone trying to get some cred, trying to get some traction. So they pull a fan favorite nerdy actor like Kit Harington, pull a Batman villain that has already been rumored and going, hey, look, here's the rumor. Maybe I'm being cynical. I apologize, but that's how internet rumors seem to be these days.
Well, the other side of that is, number one, I would go, I'll play both sides of the fence. Number one, I would say that they're probably losing their patience with a lot of this stuff. So maybe that's why they're trying to get a jump on the casting. But more than that, and I think this outweighs and kind of leads toward what you were just saying, Kit Harington has no use for the money at this point. He made so damn much money doing Game of Thrones, he never has to work again unless it's something he wants to do. Now, that's not to say that he wouldn't want to be involved with a Batman movie just because it's a Batman movie. But the other side of it is, I feel like he's almost like Daniel Radcliffe. Daniel Radcliffe only does what he wants. He doesn't do shit for a paycheck anymore because he's got more money than he could ever spend. Mm-hmm. So he just does what he wants to do based on what he likes from a script. Well, guess what? Kit Harington doesn't have a script. Why would he agree to even be discussing this? I mean, I suppose they could give him bullet points or whatever and say, here's what you're probably going to do. But why would he even start negotiations until he has the full script in his hands to know if it's worth his time to invest in doing this thing?
Yeah. Right. So there are many reasons that it seems very unlikely they would be casting him at this point in the process.
Yeah, I really lean more toward what you're saying there.
But here's the other point. How would you feel about using Hush in the sequel?
I think it fits better with that particular world and its themes than, say, a lot of other Batman villains would, like a Killer Croc or a Man Bat or something along those lines.
Mm.
Hush fits in the gritty realism that is clearly what they're pushing to the forefront with that pocket of the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah. So I think that these Hush rumors come from that, right? I think Matt Reeves has said something to the effect of the villain is not someone you would immediately think of, or something like that, or it's someone unexpected. So people go, okay, who's a quote unquote realistic villain that's maybe not one of the biggies, the most obvious choices, and you land on something like Hush. And they also had like the little nod to Hush in the first film, right? It was like one of the Riddler's videos, right? And like the word Hush came up on the screen. So I think that's where that speculation is coming from. I don't think there's been any actual confirmation that Hush is a part of this, but I could see why people go, well, who's unexpected, who's realistic, and then they paid an obvious homage to him in the first movie. I just feel like Hush. I feel like the version of the Riddler in the first movie is already halfway to Hush anyway. And so I feel like if they were to do Hush, it would just feel like a variation on the Riddler from the first movie.
That's
Maybe
fair.
with less puzzles, but more but very similar motivations and character, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it would be an exciting choice just because I'm like, I don't know. I feel like the Riddler was like half Riddler, half Hush to begin with.
I don't find your analysis to be in any way off base.
So all that is to say, like Kit Harrington, great. I like him, so I have no problem with if he does eventually join this or if he were to show up in a Batman movie. I feel like doing Hush would not be the most exciting thing. But who
Well, to
knows?
be fair, you're not exactly. Well, I really am not either. I think I liked it maybe more than you did, but I don't feel like anything about this corner of the universe is super exciting for us.
Well, that is true too. But I guess my point is like Hush doesn't move the needle.
Gotcha.
But yes, I mean that's totally fair too. So anyway, again, it's a rumor. I'm not putting a ton of weight behind it, but I thought it was at least worth the conversation.
Okay.
But that's what I got for news for this week. Unless there's anything else that you saw that I didn't.
Uh, no.
All right, great. Well, hopefully we'll have more news sooner than later, and we can keep talking, or another trailer, or the first look at Supergirl, or Lanterns, or whatever. But it'll be fun to see as those things continue ramping up over the next few months. But I did promise you at the beginning, we watched another episode of The Batman. So every time you think we forget, we're going to loop back around. So here we go. Let's do another episode from The Batman. So this episode is, what are we on? Season 3, episode 5, RPM. This one was released on November 5th of 2005. It was directed by Christopher Berkeley and written by Christopher Yost. Here we get to meet Gearhead. So Bruce Wayne is part of a big charity race in Gotham. Looks like they're just using the streets of Gotham, which makes for a fun race, I guess. Got some little Dark Knight Returns flashbacks because of the race.
Yep.
But the race gets crashed by Gearhead in his big, cool yellow race car. We find out later it's not the car, it's him. He can go into any car and with his magical tubes and wires transform it into the car he wants it to be. So Gearhead crashes the race. He steals the prize money or the charity money. And so Batman is after him. Lots of car chases between Gearhead and Batman. Eventually, Batman gets driven off a cliff by Gearhead, and the Batmobile gets destroyed. So it gives Batman an excuse to build a brand new Batmobile. In the meantime, Batgirl goes out to try and help. She jumps on Batman's Batcycle, and the two of them take Gearhead down. And Batman uses some of Gearhead's technology to improve this new Batmobile. And by the end, he's happy with his new car. And he's like, great, it's a keeper. And I'm going to take it out for a spin. So that's our PM. Jamie, what'd you think of this episode?
It was okay. Gearhead is obviously created for this episode. At least I assume he was, or for this show. Not a lot of, in-depth character development with him. Just comes out and does some interesting things with tech. The new Batmobile, I feel like, was the highlight of the episode. I really like the design on that. It kind of looks like a moderned up version of the BTAS Batmobile, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I always love seeing Batgirl, of course, but I thought some of her moments were a little goofy or silly. Like the driver's ed instructor, she's in the car with him, and she's like sees the two of them go whipping by her, so she takes off to go after him, like immediately runs over a tire spike thing and flattens the tires. I'm like, oh, come on, she didn't see that. But it's I don't know, but I'll just go ahead and throw out maybe my favorite thing, even above the Batmobile in this episode, was when Gearhead detaches from the car and it reverts to the hoopty that it was previously, and they pan over to Batman, and the expression on his face as that happens was magnificent. I mean, I'm going to add a point to this episode just because I laughed so hard at his reaction to that. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, they might as well have just had his mouth, forming the words without even saying them. What the F? But I thought that was great.
All right, great.
And shout out to Fred Willard as the announcer for the race.
Yeah. And did you see who was doing Gearhead?
It was a name that I'd heard before, but I don't know why.
It was, this is one where I actually recognized the voice, and I was very proud of myself. It was Will Friedle, who was Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond.
Ah, that's why.
I like the idea of them going, you know what? We're ready to give Batman a new Batmobile. So instead of just doing it, let's do an episode about why he has to do it. I think that's fun. Mm-hmm. And kind of the B plot of that is, and while we're at it, let's give Batgirl the motorcycle. We're kind of doing a twofer. So I like that. Otherwise, I did not like this episode. I did not like Gearhead at all, aside from the fact that it was voiced by Will Friedle. The story was so basic that I was really bored because it really didn't amount to much other than Gearhead shows up, car chases, Batmobile gets destroyed, he builds a new Batmobile. That's really it. So I had a hard time focusing on it because there was just not a lot to grab onto. And so, yeah, it's and then I feel like for all the trouble, I don't like this Batmobile better than the old one. It's okay, but I think I like the first one better. So even to go to all the trouble, being we're giving him a new Batmobile. The new one I think is a little boring. So yeah, this episode was really let down. I didn't have high hopes when I saw that it was Gearhead. But yeah, I couldn't get into it.
I really like the new Batmobile.
Really?
Yeah, it's not like my top 5 or anything, but I liked it.
Yeah, I mean it's okay. I don't hate it, but I to me it feels like you made this comparison. Like in Batman the Animated Series, they had the original Batmobile that was super distinctive, very unique. And then they had the New Adventures Batmobile that was still fine, but a little more generic. That's how I feel about these two. Is the original one from the first 2.5 seasons. it was a lot more different. But it was very distinctive, and I liked that about it. And then they went with just this one, which to me feels a little more generic. And so I'm like, it's fine, but to me it felt like a downgrade.
Okay.
So yeah, like it's as far as an episode, and as I was watching it, I was like, why are we even doing this? Why are we doing a Gearhead episode? Like, it feels like a season 1 episode where, if you remember, we were like, it's a lot of action, very little story. Some of the animation's nice, but it's also very formulaic. That's how I felt about this. So this feels like a lower end season 1 episode.
Yeah, the subplot with Batgirl and the introduction of the new Batmobile, outside of those maybe 1.5 to 2 things, there is exactly what we're saying. There was nothing furthered about the ongoing story of this particular Batman.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like you liked it a little better than I did, which is interesting. So yeah, what would you give it?
I was going to give it a C-, but again, the look on Batman's face when he watched that car transform in front of him, I'm moving it up to a C.
Oh, well, okay. So you didn't love it.
No.
Okay. No. So, cause yeah, I am like C- is about where I would be too. So yeah, I think if he didn't get a new Batmobile, because at least that has a point, right? If he didn't get that, I would say like a D, because there would be no reason to watch this. But I bump it up just a little bit of being like, oh, cool, it's the origin of the new Batmobile, and I think that's kind of fun. Mm-hmm. So, okay, well, good. We're not that far off, actually. So a C and a C- for RPM with Gearhead.
So Brendan's favorite episode of the show. This episode is the reason Brendan pushed so hard to do this show.
I know, and he didn't get to be part of it. But the sad part is that the estate of the creators of Gearhead are suing, and you can't watch this in Australia anymore. So he's out of luck.
Gearhead kind of looks like a Mad Max character, so it's perfect for Brendan.
Yeah. Yeah, I assume Gearhead was made up for the show. I don't know, but I've heard the name before, so I feel like maybe he's been around. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. Anyway,
can we just go ahead and jump to season 5 now? Because man, there's some cool looking stuff going on there.
I would like to, but no, we gotta stay the course, my friend.
All right, well, let's start doing like 4 episodes for each one of our episodes, because I really want to get there.
If they're all as basic as RPM, we probably could.
Yeah, that's fair.
We could rip right through them. But anyway, so RPM, it's out there. It's on Max and Netflix right now, I think. So yeah, you got your options to watch it. And I will say my favorite part was I was watching it with Harley, eating my Fruity Pebbles. And when Batgirl suits up, Harley went, "Oh, it's Batgirl." And that made me happy. So all right, next one up, whenever we get around to it, is Brawn,
which looked like a Joker episode from the thumbnail.
It looks like Joker gets Bane's venom.
Oh,
because based on the thumbnail, it was like super Bane Joker.
Okay,
we'll see how it goes. All right, well, look at that, another episode of the Batman. I feel so productive, but let's not say goodbye just quite yet, because I got to check in with you fine feathered things. It's time for the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren, what is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
Well, we got a couple, but hey, I love keeping on top of it. This one here is from Christina. It says, "Hey all, I've been getting more and more excited as we get closer to the new Superman movie. I love hearing your guys' insights on the movie and the impact it will have on the DC universe as a whole. I've heard a lot of talk about what will happen going forward if the movie is a hit or if it's a flop. But what if it's right down the middle? What if some people really like it and some people really hate it? I feel like this is almost worse than being a flop, because we're right back to the divisive DC universe that we were in before. Of course, we all hope the movie will be a success, and the trailers seem to be leaning positive, but what do you think could be done to help DC's reputation if the movie is received just as okay? Love the show as always, and thank you for all that you do. Thank you, Christina. And that is an excellent question. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot to think about. So, Jamie, any thoughts? Like, what if the movie comes out, it does okay, but it's divisive? Some people hate it, some people love it.
Well, I have to believe if that is the case, which, as you said, nobody's going to love everything and whatnot. I feel like they stay the course. I feel like Gunn has said everybody's unique voice will be on their film. So, if Gunn does not always work for me. So, there's a possibility that this movie is not going to work for me the way that I would like a Superman movie to work for me, just based on my history with Gunn. He's done some stuff I really like. He's done some stuff I really don't. So I'm maybe the candidate that this should be pointed at. I don't know. But that's not to say I look at it in that if I don't like a James Gunn movie, that doesn't mean I won't like an Andy Muschietti Batman movie or any of the other ones. I'm not going to shoot down the whole universe just because of that. I'm not going to get nervous about it, but I'm also not the voice of geekdom out there. Geekdom tends to overreact about a lot of things. So again, I feel like what they have to do, if it's a lukewarm reception or a moderate hit or something like that, just stay the course, stick with your plan. And if you reel off about 3 or 4 of those that are getting the same reaction, maybe then it's time to make a slight course adjustment. But don't overreact based on the first movie. Say it's like Man of Steel. Say it does. What Man of Steel do? Like 600 million or something like that?
Yeah, 620 maybe, something like that.
Which was good, but it wasn't the hit that they expected. So say this movie kind of does around those same numbers. Stay the course. Do what you're doing. Stick to the plan. Let the voices speak for themselves on each individual film. And again, react when you have a couple years worth of that same reaction. Then do something to adjust. But until then, don't get overblown with trying to make everybody happy, because you're never going to make everybody happy anyway.
Yeah. 670 Man of Steel. 670.
Okay.
But what's funny is you kind of took the words out of my mouth. Eventually you got there. Is Christina, what you are describing is exactly what happened with Man of Steel. Almost exactly, because it did well enough, but people loved it or hated it. And you ended up in a very kind of shaky starting point for the new universe, but they continued on. And then we all, know how it went after that. So I agree with you, Jamie, though. I think that if that's the case, as long as the movie is profitable, they stick with the plan, especially because at least one more movie and a TV show will already have been completed by the time we see this movie. So they've got, they should at least continue with those. And you hope that the next one will connect. But to your point, then we do end up in a very similar place as we did with the last DC Universe on film, which is you start with a movie that is a big enough hit to continue, but not the beloved all around, everyone can't wait for the next one situation that you hope for. And then you end up, and then it's very up and down for years where BVS makes money, but man, it becomes a whipping boy. And then Suicide Squad does exactly the same. But then Wonder Woman breaks out and everybody does love it. And then Aquaman breaks out and everyone does love it. But then then it becomes very up and down roller coastery. We all would love to avoid that next time, but you're right. That could happen if Superman, is a little more divisive than we're hoping for. So I think it's a fair concern, but also based on what Jamie and I said not that long ago is when it comes to superhero movies, very few people will say, oh, it was okay. They only believe in love it or hate it. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. But like I said, I think that what you could end up with is a very similar trajectory as we had last time, but they will at least have to stick to the plan for a while. And I think the true tiebreaker, or what will ultimately make the decision for them is it profitable? And we'll go from there.
Yeah, they're not putting these movies out because they want to make us smile. They're putting them out because they want our money.
Yeah, the the most important word in show business is business.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. Thank you for the question, Christina, and thank you for the kind words. This message is from Raymond. It says, "Hey guys, I probably won't be the first to do this, but I wanted to chime in on some of your questions about the Caped Crusader episode Nocturne, especially since it pertains to another conversation that arose lately, Batman's dearth of female villains. The villain in Nocturne was actually Nocturna, a character who made her comics debut in 1983. Two little pieces of trivia. First, Bruce Timm and Company had wanted to include her in Batman the Animated Series, but Fox censors would not allow for a vampiric character. Remember how the Spider-Man villain Morbius had to feed on plasma instead of blood? Same deal. I've attached the art of what was meant to be used for her episode. The second bit of trivia, I had a Batman board game as a kid, probably in the late 80s. I remember there were 6 villain cards: Joker, Penguin, Riddler, Catwoman, Scarecrow, and Nocturna. Wow. That's where I first discovered she was a character. It seems like there were several attempts to make Nocturna a fixture of the Rogues Gallery over the years, but none of them caught on. Anyway, I hope this helps fill in some blanks regarding who she is and why she showed up in Cape Crusader. No questions, just excited to go deep nerd on this one. I always enjoy listening. Happy New Year. Best, Ray." Ray, dropping knowledge. I had never heard of Nocturna. That is so interesting, because when Brendan and I talked about that episode, I was like, oh yeah, like, is this, what was her name? Natalia. We're like, is Natalia based on anything or based on anyone? And Brendan and I didn't know. Turns out she was. Turns out Nocturna is a thing. I had no idea. And that is crazy that there was a board game that included her. It must have been at just the right moment of time when DC was trying to make her a thing that she would end up in a board game. Because I have a funny example is I have a really cool but very complicated Batman board game where you're in Arkham Asylum. And this came out, I'd say 10 years ago. And you play as the villains, but you can play as Joker's daughter because that game came out right when they were trying to make Joker's daughter a thing. And obviously she didn't become a thing, but I just love that it's like Joker, Catwoman, Riddler, Scarecrow, Joker's daughter.
Every time I hear Joker's daughter, I just groan because I can't stand her.
Yeah, well, I don't think you're alone because she went away. But anyway, so this is really interesting about Nocturna. Jamie, did you know any of this?
No.
Okay. So, and Ray did attach a photo here of Nocturna, who she looks like a grown-up version of the character from Cape Crusader. So this is the adult version, because in Cape Crusader, obviously she was a child. And yeah, very much in that Bruce Timm style. So look at that. Learned something new today. Thank you so much, Ray. And you are the only one who let us know. So I think that, yeah, Nocturna is one of those Batman footnotes that I think a lot of people didn't realize.
Yeah, it's not triggering anything from me. I don't have any recollection of that character at all.
Yeah. So I feel better in that, like, a lot of people seem to be unaware, but I also love that you knew that, and I appreciate you sharing it because now I do know. All right, just one last email here. This is from James. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast crew. I hope everyone's doing well. I was wondering if you guys use or know of any apps that help with keeping track of the comics you own. Also, I can't help but think Alan Ritchson would be an ideal Batman for the DCU. I loved his version of Hawk in Titans. The acting chops are there, and I think he physically looks the part. I know as of this moment, he's more of a fan cast, but what are your thoughts? Thanks, as always, for putting out amazing episodes, James." Thanks, James. So, first questions first. Do you know of any apps that help you keep track of your comics, Jamie?
I used to have one, but it was like at the advent of me getting a smartphone, which was in like 2013. And I haven't used it in almost that long, so I can't be much help on that front.
Yeah, I don't have one. I know they exist. And so I'm going to put it out to the listeners, anybody out there listening, if you've got a great comics tracking app, I'd love to hear about it too, because I would love to do it for me. And then, yeah, hopefully we can give James some advice here. But yeah, like if there was a comics version of like Letterboxd, I would be all for it. And I've got to believe there is. I just don't know about it. And then the other question from James is about Alan Ritchson as Batman. Jamie, what do you think?
I'd be all for it. I don't feel like it's probably going to happen, but the physical stature of that man is, like otherworldly. So getting him to play kind of any male superhero, I think works. But yeah, I'd be okay with him as Batman. I'm loving him on Reacher. I've really liked him on other stuff that I've seen him in over the years. Even as he mentioned, Hawk. Was he was Aquaman on Smallville, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I dug him with that. Uh, I think he would fit the mold of the appearance, but I mean, at that point, we'd have a Batman that was like 4 times the size of Superman, too. So I'm not sure we really want that, but
yeah,
I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it is a fan cast that's out there a lot, but I agree with you both. I think he'd be great. I love him. I think he's awesome. It would be funny that Batman would also be Hawk and Aquaman. There are a lot of people who've played 2 characters in a universe. I don't know how many have played 3. But I think that's fun. And I will say this though, is like Alan Ritchson, his star continues to rise, and I love that for him. I think that's so cool. Because at this point, he's older. He's probably in his late 40s, I think. And I love to see his career continuing to just trend upwards, because Reacher, I know, was a huge thing for him and people love it and people love him in it. But just recently on Real Fans, we talked about oh my God, what was it? The League of Ungentlemanly Warfare or whatever. What was that called? I don't know if it's League. It was whatever. It was the Guy Ritchie movie. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Yeah. The Guy Ritchie movie. And A, that movie's great. You should watch it. B, I love that Alan Ritchson was essentially the second lead in that. So not only has he seen a lot of success on the small screen, like being the second lead in the Guy Ritchie movie, it means that he's continuing to get even more opportunities. So all that is to say, I think he's great. I love that his career continues to be successful, and I would have no problem with him being Batman. It just would be funny that it's like also Hawk and Aquaman.
He just turned 42 in late November, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. He's younger than me? What? Oh, I thought for sure he was at least my age. And also I met him on a Disney cruise and he was a very nice man.
I do remember you saying that.
Yeah, that was calling that out. I'll never forget like being on the Disney cruise, and it was like a big event in the lobby, and like all the way across the lobby, I spotted him and I was like, holy shit, that looks like Alan Ritchson. And then I was like, it's probably nothing. And then I saw him again, like at the end of the cruise, and I was like, oh my God, that is Alan Ritchson. And he was very nice. So anyway, yep, I'm a fan. And if he were to be Batman, I would be totally fine with it.
Yeah, I do feel like the age is a bit of a stretch at this point, because I don't want the BVS age gap thing again.
Yeah.
I don't want Batman being the old gristled veteran. I would love Batman, and this is me. This is my talk. This isn't James Gunn. But I would prefer Batman and Superman to be within a couple of years of each other,
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I don't think, what's Corn Sweat in his early 30s?
I think so. Yeah. I think he maybe is 30. I can tell you.
If only we had devices that could provide information on demand.
If only. 31.
Yeah, so I don't really want an 11-year difference between Batman and Superman, but that's me. Not that Alan Richardson doesn't look younger than his age, but we're also talking about a universe that allegedly has a 10-year map at this point. So,
right. Well, and I was about to say, 10 years ago when we were getting ready for the DCU, I was like, Zac Efron should be Nightwing because at that point he was 27. Now he's 37. So now Zac Efron could be Batman.
Yeah.
So I mean, not that he's my top choice, but I am shocked that Marvel or DC has not snagged him by now. And it's also crazy that it has now been long enough that he has already graduated from Nightwing to Batman in fan casting. All right. Well, that's it for the Wayne Manor mailbox. If you've got more for it, you can send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. Jamie, thanks for making time this morning to chat some DC, some Superman, some Supergirl, as much Batman as we could fit in with what's going on out there. And it's always nice to start the morning with a little nerdy discussion.
Yeah. Good to be here. Good to chat. Good to get caught up on some news because I'm not very caught up these days.
That's okay. I do my best to keep you informed. But the nice thing is getting on here. I was like, oh, let me see what I can pull up. And there was even stuff that I had forgotten about. Nothing I didn't know about, but at least stuff I had forgotten. So there you go. There's always news to chat about. And you said you're not really on social media these days, but anywhere people can find you.
Just kind of doing the letterbox thing, but I'm kind of lax on movies right now because I'm watching a bunch of Superman TV content.
Well, good for you. Do you know what I'm watching right now?
No.
It's not DC related, but it is superhero related. I am watching The Greatest American Hero.
Oh, that was on sale for like, what was it, $10 or something?
That's why I'm watching it. So the entire series was on sale on iTunes for, like $10 for 3 seasons. And I was like, man, I loved this as a kid. And I even dressed up like The Greatest American Hero for Halloween a lot of years ago, but I did. And I was like, I need something that is like comforting and silly to watch that Catherine doesn't care if she watches with me. And so, yeah, I'm watching Greatest American Hero. I'm having a great time.
I also bought it, but I haven't dived into it yet. I don't think I've seen an episode of that show for probably close to 40 years.
Yeah, it's really fun. But I will say this, as much fun as I'm having, I'm like, I understand why it didn't last longer because like you can only stretch the one joke so far.
Yeah, because the whole premise is it's like an alien costume, but he lost the instruction manual, so he really doesn't know how to control most of it.
Exactly, right.
Okay,
so he's a superhero. Aliens give him a superhero outfit with all these abilities. He loses the instruction book. And so the whole show is him being a superhero, but being pretty bad at it because he doesn't know how to work the suit.
Yeah. So weirdly enough, my aunt really liked that show. And, this is like VCRs are still relatively new and not in every household. And I think the show started in probably the early 80s, like probably 82, 83.
81.
Okay, so probably ran 81 to 84. So
Yeah.
I don't think we got our first VCR until 84 or 85.
Mm.
And my aunt really liked the show, and we would talk about it when we get together for like holidays and stuff. And then the show ended, and I hadn't kept up with it because, we couldn't record or anything. So if you didn't watch it when it aired, tough luck. And I had to have my aunt sit there at Thanksgiving or Christmas that one year and tell me all the details of how the show ended.
I've never seen how it ended, so I'm hoping I'll actually stick with it and get to that.
But it can't be a long time commitment. What, 3 seasons is probably 60, 65 episodes?
It's not even that many. I think it's like 41 episodes.
Oh, well.
Because they weren't even full seasons. But yeah, anyway, I know, sorry for the tangent, but as you were talking about, you're like, I'm watching Superman content. I'm like, well, I'm also watching a superhero show, but far more random. But because it was so darn cheap, I was like, I want to watch this. And I've been enjoying it.
I'm going to finish up Lois and Clark. I'm just right at the cusp of season 3, I think. And there's 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm right at the end of season 2, getting ready to go into 3. After I get done with that, I think I'm going to do the Adventures of Superman, the old, 1954-ish
nice
George Reeves show. And I found out yesterday there is Superman serials from the late 1940s.
Yeah.
Much like the Batman one. And they're not streaming anywhere. And to buy them currently, and there's not very many episodes. I think there's like 30 20-minute episodes. and it's $30 to buy it. And I'm like, I'm not
Oh.
spending that much on that.
I feel
So
like they
hopefully,
should
as Superman gets closer, that price will dip.
I was gonna say they should be on YouTube. That's when we did the Batman cereal years ago. It was on YouTube.
Yeah, see, I bought the Batman cereal for $10.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, all right. I'm glad you're all in your Superman era. That's fun.
Yeah, it's the year of Superman. I'm all
Yeah,
in.
it is.
If I run out of the live action content, we're going to do, of course, if you watch Smallville, you're going to be busy until the second part of James Gunn's Superman comes out, because that's 10 seasons.
Yeah.
But, there's Superman, the animated series. And, I want to get the Ruby Spears and the Fleischer Superman stuff. And
I bought the Fleischer one last year, and my God, is it cool. We should actually do an episode on the Fleischer Superman. It's really cool.
that's the early one, right? Like the old.
Oh, yeah.
So I've seen like one episode of that. Like it was airing for some reason on TV, and I watched it and I was like, that is really freaking cool.
Yeah.
And then I never watched any more of it. But of course, that was on sale for $10, so I bought it. The Ruby Spears was $10. I bought it. So I've accumulated all of the Superman content that I've never watched all the way through. So that's kind of my goal, is leading up to the movie, getting that done.
I love that. I think that's great. You just gave me an idea for an episode.
All right.
Like, what if we walked through all of the Superman media, starting with the serials or Fleischer all the way up through now? That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, it would.
Like especially movies, TV, cartoons.
I also need to get in Superman and the Mole Men, which I believe was the lead into the George Reeves series.
Yeah, I've never seen that, but yeah.
I hear it's god awful, but I still want to see it.
Right. Well, cool. Keep us posted on all that. Yeah, love it. Anyway, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys out there for listening and for downloading or streaming the show. Please do follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you do love the show, something else you can do to support us, it doesn't cost a penny. Just leave us a nice review. Nice review would really be awesome. We would love it. Makes us feel good. So yeah, only takes a minute of your day and we would love that. Again, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. And if you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, that email address again is holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Don't forget to check out our friends over at Magic Mind. If you're going to try to work Magic Mind into your daily routine, or something where you need that extra little pick-me-up or extra little focus, you can check those out. Go to magicmind.com/holy20. And I think you'll be very happy with it. Big thank you, as always, to Gaurav Venkateswar. He created our theme music, and you can find his work at gvtunes.com. But that will do it for this episode. Thanks for joining us. On behalf of Jamie, I've been Andy. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for. And Jamie, if you find some time in your schedule, oh hi Harley, what you doing? Did you escape?
Yes, let's go. Look at baby.
Will you go back with mommy?
Yep, come on. Say bye, Dada.
Hey, I'll be done in a little bit, okay?
No, you like it? You like dinosaurs?
Yeah, thank you. It is with dinosaurs, huh?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye, love you.
I'm coming. Bye, Daddy.
That child has a brilliant career on the horizon doing magic.
She is so wily.
Hello. I'm gonna
Harley, how'd you escape again? What are you doing?
Come
Uh-oh.
on.
Bye, 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 Daddy.
Bye, baby.